Most people think health starts in the gym or with supplements, but what if the real problem is much deeper? What if your food, your environment, your lifestyle are the reason you feel exhausted, stressed, and out of control? And more importantly, what if you could take back that and put it back into control in your life? Today, we're diving into something that's becoming more important than ever, taking control of your health, your food, and your life. Because right now, people are more disconnected, more stressed, and more dependent than ever before. I'm joined here by Thomas Patton, the founder of Legavera, who has spent years transforming his life from bodybuilding and CrossFit to rebuilding his health and his land and his entire lifestyle through what he calls a neo-rural way of living. And what he discovered could completely change how you think about health, stress, and your future. Thomas, I'd like to welcome you to the show. I'm so excited to have you here. This is a topic that's always near and dear to my heart, and I just can't wait to dive deep into it with you.
Thank you, Stacey. Thank you. Yes, definitely, it's a worthwhile topic because it's the basis of everything.
Oh, 100%. Now let's start here. Most people think that they're doing the right things for their health, going to the gym, eating clean, taking supplements, but they still feel off. What are people missing?
They're missing control over their food. That's something I discovered. I used to work in an industrial farm. I still work in the same farm. It's we just regenerated the farm into something else. But we
Right.
decided to grow our own food to complement our health and fitness lifestyle. And what we noticed, both for the land and for our health, was amazing. Uh, things started. Our energy came back. The taste of food reappeared. The amounts that we were eating were reduced because we could feel the nourishment in each bite, and we have definitely been able to recognize the difference between food that is given to you for profit or food
Mhm.
that is given to you for sharing.
Right, exactly. When you did, when you started to realize that health was more than just diet and exercise, when did that first hit you?
Well, we were learning at the gym about grass fed proteins versus grain fed proteins. We were learning about omega 3s and omega 6s. And at the same time, in the farm, we aspired to be able to feed grain to the cattle. So it was as if the health advice that I was receiving was like steer clear of these methods that in Panama, because grain is not subsidized, we were not feeding grain yet, but yet we aspired to feed grain. So I was like, no, no, no. So I started realizing that, there were a lot of inefficiencies and a lot of things that we were doing completely wrong to how we created food all around, not only in our farm, but everywhere else. And to be honest, my story includes the fact that for the first 13 years of my farm career, I hated the farm. I went to work with it was a lack of understanding. I just felt like there was no hope. We thought, we thought that we were going to lose the farm like everybody else. It felt like I had chosen the only industry where year after year after year, your capital business is worth less and less and less. We always hear how people say, there's rising costs, and at the same time, the more years that you produce on the same land, the diminishing returns. So I was like, this can't be. This can't be that I have this career in particular. Later, I learned through learning about gut health and learning about a holistic understanding of the human body.
Yeah,
I correlated that to the holistic understanding of the soil, and I realized that in our farm, it wasn't about the cow, it wasn't about the chicken, it wasn't about the the yearly things that we could add on a worksheet. It was
right.
more of what are you doing to feed the biome, and by biome I mean the soil health,
Yeah,
and quickly realized that the healthier the soil, the more grass that I could produce per meter. And the more grass that I could produce per meter, then the more cows I could carry on my same farm. So by being gentle and regenerative to the soil, like I had already been trying to learn with my gut and my health and how I felt, we
Right.
slowly turned it around to a business where the capital is decreasing year by year. Your main wealth is decreasing. We turned it over into a farm that was in effect appreciating because we could have more animals each year as the ecosystem got healthier and healthier.
Right. Now you've gone through a massive evolution, like from bodybuilding to CrossFit to natural living. What were you searching for through all of that?
Ooh, I guess it has always come from the gut. You know, when things don't feel great and you don't know why,
Yeah.
maybe you feel good enough 70% of the days, and then all of a sudden you feel off. So it was
Yeah.
in search of that. It was in search of why do I feel bad? I mean, couple years later you realize that maybe you had some vices, or maybe you were over consuming diet soda, or maybe it was too much sugar, and you could have seen it by yourself. But we are not born with all the knowledge. We need to painfully acquire it.
Yes.
So it was that.
And what finally made you realize something deeper needed to change
Eh, in the soil, in the farm, or in my health. Eh,
in your health?
Well, just wanting to feel optimum, I guess. As a human being, we recognize our capacity, and you kind of know when you're at your best, and you know when you're a little. CrossFit also helped me too, and the paleo diet. To be honest, the paleo diet, we were spokespeople here in Panama for the paleo diet. My wife and I, and in our gym, our CrossFit gym, we used to own a CrossFit gym, and we used an example when we wanted to explain to people nutrition, and we said that in life, the leaky gut syndrome
Yeah.
ended up feeling like you're born with 100 light bulbs turned on, and
Yeah.
each year they pop one out and they pop one out, and you don't notice the decline in your health, but at some point half the light bulbs are lit and the other half are already turned off. And when you finally eat clean for 3 weeks or a month, when you take away the sugar, you take away all the inflammatory grains, or anything else that could be most inflammatory to you. Let's leave it at that. It's suddenly as if the whole 100 light bulbs come back on, and you realize like, wow, I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it. So that's when things, when you realize your potential, and you know that it's only up to you to regain your potential, and that's the only way to thrive in life. I guess
Yeah.
that's when we decided that health was worth every single effort, and that's what led us to where we are today. Control of your food is what will guarantee that at least you can control the rest of the steps you want to take.
Oh, 100%. Now, how do you take control over your food?
Well, first we said know your farmer. That's what we started doing in our farm. We have a farm. Our farm is 45 minutes from the Panama International Airport, right outside Panama City to the east. And first, we started telling people you have to know your farmer. Any other product that you buy for yourself, you want to buy brands, you want to buy reliable things, you want to know where it's coming from, whether it be an electronic or your clothing. You kind of buy trust. You buy what you trust already. But
Yes.
when it comes to food, like, we really don't care. We just don't want to go hungry. We make quick trade-offs throughout the day. As long as
Yeah.
they're economic, as long as they, impress our taste buds, that's good enough. And
Right.
for us, that was not good enough. Every time we went to eat out, we felt like the restaurant was cutting corners
Yeah.
to be profitable, even if not on purpose. It's just what people know cheap, convenient food that is not conducive to optimum health.
Right.
So yeah, we started producing our own food so we could have control over everything else. It felt like if we had access to that main step, then everything else would have been a good addition. But it was like the 80-20 principle. 80% of what you feel is what you consume, and then the rest is just additions.
Right. Now, if you're listening to this and you're realizing something feels off in my life, my health, or even my energy, make sure you follow the show because these are conversations that help you take back your power and your life. Now, let's talk about something that most people don't even think about, that control, like we were just talking about a minute ago. You say that control over your own food is one of the most important things. Why is that?
Well, uh, scarcity could be one. A future fear of scarcity, maybe a future fear of rising costs. That the trade-off becomes a little offset. Nowadays you pay for convenience and it's good enough, but maybe someday the price you are paying for the same quality is not really worth it.
Right.
And because of quality, more or less. If you can control the quality, if you can control it, if you know what has gone into the product, you really have control over how you'll feel later.
Yeah.
uh, yes.
Now, what are people actually consuming that they don't even realize?
Well, additives, we shelf life is what you're consuming. Food should rot. That's the reality of it. I
Yeah.
remember when we started, CrossFit and paleo. We learned that you go in the perimeter of the supermarket. Anything that needed a refrigeration was more conducive to what you could eat than what actually sat on the shelves.
Right.
And yeah, that's what we learned. So we said know your farmer, as in go find your food,
Mhm.
go find who you trust, look at the farmer in the eye. When it's a little more inconvenient. That's why maybe a lot of people haven't gotten into the practice of doing it. Maybe you have to drive one way to get your protein, maybe you have to drive another way to go get your produce. And people are not used to it. We live in an age of convenience, which has its advantages. We're not going to lie about that.
Yeah.
But then again, because of saving time that is probably used for other things that aren't really necessary.
Right.
Because everybody sees all the shows that come out, the whole series, and it's like, okay, you don't have time to source your food, which is the most important ingredient of your life. Yet
Yeah.
again, when anybody mentions a series, all the details, then you can partake in the conversation. So what are we choosing? No.
Right.
And then that's it.
Now, how does this affect energy and stress and long-term health?
Ooh, when you're not at your best, there's inflammation going on in your
Mhm.
body that you might not be able to tell, because inflammation is slow and slowly conducive to
Yeah.
decline, but it's probably not a very active symptom, or maybe not a direct cause and effect.
Right.
But yes, for sure, I can tell you from personal experience, and I try to keep control of as many variables, not in an overly extreme way. I just try to
Yeah.
sleep well, I try to eat well. But when I have sugar after dinner, because it's somebody's birthday or something, the next day I really do not feel like I know I should feel. And
Yeah.
it's and for a while, family members and friends sometimes say like, no, but you're too extreme, and because you eat so clean, then that's what happens to you. And I'm like, no, I'm actually happy that I was able to teach my body to give me the feedback that I want, that I can use to thrive.
Yeah.
When I have important days, what do you do the night before? You go to bed early. So it's also like that. If you want to have a good week, what do? You eat clean on the weekend, and all of a sudden it becomes a habit and a permanent lifestyle.
Right.
So yes, that's the best thing you can do. The best thing you can do is know the source of your food, and put a name and a face to whoever created that food. They should have their pride and their name on their shoulder when they
Yeah.
handed it to you, and you should trust that that product was created with all the intention in the world to make you a healthy, happy, returning customer. Not just because you need it, but because you choose to obtain that.
Right. That's so true. Now, this idea of neo-rural lifestyle is really interesting. What does that actually mean?
Okay, when we began the agritourism in our farm, after we started living like this, we didn't want to talk about it. We didn't want to, quote unquote, show it off because we couldn't share it with people. So we
Right.
decided to restore an old farmhouse that we had. We turned it into a hostel. We turned it into agritourism hospitality, and people started coming to eat our clean food and listen to our story without additives and this and that. And we heard two common trends of stories. One was, one day I want to have a farm. Oh, how I wish I could have a farm. Oh, I feel so regenerated when I'm out in nature. So many people aspiring to have a farm, like even jealous, like I want a farm someday. That plus another perspective was, at some point we had a farm. We bought a farm, but it was so far away that it was inconvenient. And all these bad experiences of having a farm, together with the 20 plus years that we had been farming and restoring our farm after knowing what was not conducive to profit, how we wasted energy and time. So we decided that plan B, step two, a better scenario than knowing your farmer could actually be becoming your own farmer.
Right.
And we began Legavera Farm Village so we could share the opportunity of other people to become farmers. This
Right.
is a little bit different from an agri-hood, because an agri-hood is usually like a common suburban type of development adjacent to a farm, and the farm kind of becomes the community culture, but your plot of land is just as small as you would have anywhere else. What we are doing at Legavera Farm Villages is we are offering a small set of 1 acre parcels, and
Hmm.
then 30 large 13-acre parcels on average, so people can actually really, really, really become a farmer.
Yeah.
Whether it be to supply cacao to the local artisanal cacao industry, whether it be to plant coffee, which is a common now in Panama, award-winning coffee. Maybe your coconut water. That is something that in my home, my wife began and I have followed suit. We try to drink as much coconut water and as least tap water, even if it's filtered or not,
Right.
as possible. And nowadays, I collect a couple of tropical fruits that the trees are 3, 4 years old, and I still haven't tasted their fruit, but it's exciting, and it's a personal project that it's an invaluable project. It doesn't
Right.
you cannot it's a 5 year trophy, let's call it that way. Like that's real wealth. There's things that you can't just go out and purchase, and
Right.
a food forest is one of them.
Right. Now it's an amazing farm, and it's amazing what you're doing with it. It really is. People need to eat healthier and cleaner. Even when I went to Europe, I felt so much better because all the food was homegrown in these people's
Yes.
backyards, and they had little restaurants, and they were taking the food from their backyard and making the meals. And you didn't have to eat as much. You got full quickly, and you felt like you ate so much, but you really didn't. And the food tasted so much better and cleaner. You could taste the cleanness in the food. It was amazing. And everything we put in our body has an effect. If our body doesn't know what something is, it stores it, and if it can't break it down, it stores it. And then after a while, all these toxins and ingredients and all these unhealthy things slow down our organs and slows down the body and starts breaking the body down. So it's so important to have a facility like yours, where people can be exposed to clean food and clean eating, and create a whole new lifestyle for themselves.
Yes, it's freedom. It's if you have the possibility of going after your own source of food, not only is it a economic savvy decision and investment, but it's an incomparable investment in your health.
Yes.
And that's our slogan is where true wealth resides, and that's
Hmm.
exactly how we feel. Wealth, like
Yes.
being wealthy, is knowing you can be healthy. That's really wealth. In
Yeah.
having something that maybe you can't measure it with numbers, maybe you can't put
Mhm.
it in a worksheet, but
Right.
that's real wealth. Being able, maybe today you get a farm and you kind of like start it off, and maybe your sons and daughters don't need it, but maybe your grandchildren do.
Yeah.
So we have so many stories about our ancestors having farms, or being raised in a rural setting, as you said in your own personal experience and in mine. And everybody I meet had an ancestor who comes from a farm. But
Yeah.
nowadays we don't save that way. We buy more apartments that we can rent, and there's something a lot more tangible and real about having land, having space for your future generations, and at the also having an active role in the health of that land. It's
Right.
kind of like a reciprocal relationship that human beings need to feel complete. At least these are the
Yeah.
stories that we have heard from older adults that come to visit us in our farm. And also, as an aging young man, there's certain things that you start learning about life. There's certain priorities that you start recognizing,
Yeah.
and even things that make you complete.
Right.
Things that make me complete now, like I mentioned in that example earlier, are either unpurchasable or very, very inexpensive to buy. I go to the store and I get a bunch of packet of seeds, and I'm fulfilled for 2 months
Right.
with less than $20.
Yeah.
Not even talking about the outcome of the crops. I'm just talking about having purpose, having plans to tend to, having promise unfold in front of you, and it keeps the machine going. It keeps the brain pumping at maximum capacity, and that's what we want. We have a limited time here, and our only responsibilities are to keep healthy and to create growth. And
Yes.
we feel like we've learned a few of those things. We still have a lot to learn. That's why we want to bring in neighbors to do it together and
Right.
kind of like teach what we've learned. These are totally private farms. We're not a you're not forced to partake in one way or the other, but we are definitely fostering the community aspect of it. When
Right.
we meet with other farmers that are spread around, other farmer friends that we have across the country, or whenever we've traveled to the U.S. and visited farms,
Yeah.
the what you feel when you have those meals, it's totally different than the life we have known up to
Right.
then.
Now, for someone who, is interested and, is this something only a few people can do, or can anyone start moving in this direction?
No, anyone can start moving in this direction. You can do it on your own if you have a big enough yard. What we're doing here is making sure you're not on your own. We are purposefully putting everyone together close to Panama City in an, we call it the neo-rural lifestyle. It's the best of both worlds. I have lived in my farm across spans of time. I have lived in the city most of the time. I recognize the advantages of living in the city, and I recognize the growth possibilities, the human growth possibilities of living in the farm. So our idea is to blend both together. Legavera has 50 properties available. We will probably add a few more units in the farm village area, the downtown area, let's call it, but these will be smaller. We are putting in a retirement community as well that will have the most it will have the cleanest food available in Panama, if not Central America. At the end, this is, anybody can go healthy. Anybody can learn. This is not secret information. On the
Right.
contrary, everybody should be striving for it.
Right.
But we definitely have our experience. We've reconverted a very, very large farm, industrial farm, into a regenerative, you know, biodiverse, multi-species operation. And we know as a fact that anybody who has been thinking of becoming a farmer or playing around with the idea of living this sort of neo-rural lifestyle, we have
Hmm.
we have no doubt that Legavera is going to be the perfect setting because of tropical year-round abundance, because of the community that we're building, because of the control over your food that you'll start having, and as a result, the better health, the better decisions, and
Yeah.
and the more peaceful life that you will have. And we also offer a lot of support. We have a farming concierge where, as the simplest example is, a tree falls in your driveway, you don't have a chainsaw, you don't want to buy one because you don't have the need for it as often. You call
Yeah.
farming concierge or put it into the app. They come, they chop it up, they put it wherever you want. If
Right.
you have a few mango trees and avocados coming into bloom already and it's time to harvest, you can call in the farming concierge. Hey, I need 3 people for an average of 2-3 days. Please
Hmm.
put them there. We have an equine center in the entrance, an equestrian center where you can choose to either keep your horse on your property or in the equestrian center in case you don't want to have somebody specific in your property to take care of horses. And
Right.
we also have a communal herd, which means that we clean riparian areas, and we clean, empty lots, and we clean shrubbery with a herd of 150 cows. That means
Wow.
that just by being a resident at Legavera, you already have 3 cows per year for your own personal consumption. That means that you don't have to give off land
Yeah.
of things you could keep, you will start smiling just like you have because people ask me when we're on visits or in calls like, so what can I do in that farm? I'm like, it all depends on what you want to do. What do you want to look out your window when you wake up in the morning? What kind of
Yeah.
species, what kind of plants, and what kind of animals? Those are the ones you can have. We'll help you choose the lot, whether you need hills for your crops or you need flatland. We'll help you. We'll reduce the learning curve and the starting cost for anybody who has dreamed of having a farm, for
Right.
anybody who's maybe mistrusting the most common types of investments. And we always recall that the word livestock is stock. That was the original stock. Wealth was carried in a herd,
Hmm.
and maybe it's time we add that to our portfolios.
Right. Yeah, I think so. Now, what's one small shift someone living in a city could make starting today?
Well, not only can you plant whatever in your balcony, but you should try to trade. I guess trade creates. I haven't even said what you can trade. Trade whatever. Trade
Yeah.
whatever. Build a relationship. You'll whatever you're trading, you'll try to make it better. You'll try to find something better to trade.
Right.
There's something fun about giving stuff away, giving an extra prize, giving an extra herb. When we deliver our meats to our friends, and we always add like whatever we have a little bit extra of, whether it's honey or
Hmm.
whether it's a couple rosemary sticks to add to the food,
Yeah.
and whatever you can share when it comes to food and nutrition, it goes a longer way than just the classic transaction.
Right. Now, people today are overwhelmed, the constant noise, stress,
Definitely.
disconnection. How much of that is, tied to the way we're living right now?
Definitely. I feel like even though the electronics we use today are the most time saving apparatuses we can find, it also seems like we need a master's degree in time management to be able to take good advantage from them and not fall into the loop. So yeah,
Yeah,
we're totally cluttered with noise, with which and we feel it and we try to fix it. I don't know if we will be able to or not, but a little bit sadder and more worrisome is that our younger generations won't even be able to feel it.
yeah,
They won't recognize what being completely natural felt. and and there's, like I said, there's many advantages to city living. I am not gonna deny that.
yeah.
There's health access that sometimes we need for emergencies.
Hmm.
There's good things in cities, but there's definitely too much going on. Cities are, maybe we need medium cities and not mega cities. Maybe we
Right.
need just a neo rural type of living. Centralization is the problem. Centralization overwhelms cities with waste. Centralization overwhelms cities with you know gray water. It's inefficient to try to pump all that water in. Garbage is an
Right.
issue, but when you're in farms or in places where land is still visible,
Hmm.
and it's not all concrete,
Right.
the ecosystem takes care of many of the services that in the cities are totally unavailable.
How does reconnecting with land, food, or nature change that?
You're definitely, grounding is what we're talking about nowadays. People are trying to ground, and by being out in nature, you are grounding already. Uh, Quiet, birds, the breeze, definitely fresh air. It does a lot more to our health than we than we expect. The circadian rhythm, that's
Yeah.
that's such a big one. When we had that gym, that CrossFit gym, we used to coach, clients in lifestyle habits and nutrition habits. And in a few cases, they came up to us like, you see me here every day. We've gone out to eat after the gym. You've seen how I order. How come I cannot fix this and this problem? And a couple paragraphs into the conversation, it's like, so how is your sleep? It's like, oh no, terrible. I go to bed at 2:30 in the morning, and I'm like, that's it. So even daylight, natural rhythms, they make you complete. We're animals. We're not in a bad way. We're just another species that it's in tune with the planet. We need water, we need food, and we need air, just like everything else. Why would we expect our bodies to function? There's a few things we haven't understood totally about life. More than the three I will mention, but one is the ocean, like the chemistry and the biochemistry in the ocean. One is the gut and the whole human body. Like, even though there's 1,000 specializations in medicine, we still don't know how the whole body works.
Right.
And gut health, and so yeah, we humans need to take a step back too and recognize that there's a lot we need to learn. And
Yeah.
every information and every professional that you listen to is very valid, but at the same time, it's your job to get the holistic perspective and to kind of weed information out for yourself and kind of choose the best path for you.
100%. Now, you also mentioned something really powerful, doing this for your family. How has this lifestyle impacted your family dynamic?
Oh, it's been great. It's been great. I feel that my children, whenever they go, whenever we travel and we go to a city, they already know more realities about life.
Hmm.
than if they would have only been in a city. So I try to take them to diverse places, not only inside Panama but outside Panama,
Yeah.
both cities, both rural settings. The
Right.
more they know, the more they can see, the better. But just having that access to peace, to go to the farm and kind of help me out, and for a day there's quiet. Sometimes when they get there, or at least when they were younger, the cell phone is always the fight.
Yeah.
They try to stay on the phone there without doing much, but we've kind of try to insert a little bit of knowledge and kind of let them be. And
Yeah.
nowadays when they get to the farm, they even like lose the phone for a while.
Mm.
There's so much things to do when you can actually tune in. And like I said, it wasn't they didn't tune in on the first day, but having access to biodiversity and nature is priceless.
Yeah.
We can really 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 not put a value on on how that connects us back, how that makes us like real humans. It makes us think like we should.
Right. Now, what does this teach your kids the most about people, and help them understand what people are really missing in this world?
Well, farms are not easy. We're going to try to make it as easy as possible with our experience, but farms are
Yeah.
not easy. Farms are real life. Farms aren't softwares. Farms aren't machinery lines. Farms is real life.
Yeah.
You got to be a veterinarian. You got to be a biologist. You have to know water hydrology. You have to be a plumber. There's so many things you need to know.
Yeah.
You also work with people who in many ways n- already have that peaceful life that you're looking for.
Yeah.
So you learn a lot from another perspective, another speed, another need, less needs to satisfy.
Right.
Uh, that's something we our children have also learned how to treat food. They have their junk food here and there. They have their fashionable sports drinks here and there, just like any other teens.
Mhm.
But they really know when we are encountering a real food scenario, and they behave accordingly and they respect accordingly.
Yeah.
Yeah, food is energy, and we can't just eat because it's the time of the day, or because it's the social event. We have to eat because it's fuel, and we have to eat because that's how things work. And I know that my when my children experience the addition of inventory,
Mhm.
when they experience the harvesting that took place, whether it be harvesting plants and tubers or it be harvesting animals,
Yeah.
they understand the work, the sacrifice, the everything that went into place, and the long hours,
Yeah.
and the hygiene and the respect that went into the whole process to be able to fill that freezer of inventory, let's say. So they know that each time they are taking from that inventory, they kind of know the whole chain without the externalities.
Right. Right. Now, let's make this real for the audience. If someone is listening right now and they feel burned out, disconnected, unhealthy, what's the first step they should take?
First step is to go know your farmer. It satisfies a lot of things, except for traffic. But grab the weekends, go out to farms, look for them. There's many references. Just go online and find organic, better yet, regenerative farms near me, or holistic managed farms near me. Start going out to find your food. You don't need to replace your food. You probably get there and they'll only sell eggs and chicken and something else, and maybe you have to find another farm. In the beginning, don't even give it much thought. Just make it part of your lifestyle to go
Yeah.
source food, to go breathe fresh air, and to go see, to make food production, which is one of the most important things you
Mhm. Right. Mhm. Yeah. Right. Right. Mhm. Yeah. Right. Now, if there's one thing you want people to understand about health, control, and how they're living in their life, what would it be? Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Right. I agree. I agree. Now, can you tell people where they can find you and what you offer? Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Oh, 100%. This has been amazing, Thomas. I am so proud of you, how you've been such an advocate and a mentor to so many people, really shown people how important it is to have healthy food and how to really how what the importance of changing your lifestyle and the huge impact it can make on your life. You know, we spend so much time trying to fix symptoms, but not enough of time asking what actually is causing them. Sometimes the answer isn't more, and it's going back to what actually matters. And if you know, for people out there, if this episode made you think, make sure you follow and share it with someone who really needs it. Thomas, I thank you so much for being on the show today. This has been really an amazing experience, and I think what you're doing is amazing. And I really appreciate you for coming on the show. And I hope you'll be back and we can talk some more in depth about the quality of food and the importance of eating healthy and how it plays such a big role in our life and how we feel, how we think, how bodies, everything. So thank you so much, Thomas. You're truly a definite advocate and a definite mentor to many people and our future generations to come. Right. I love it. I love it. Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much, Thomas, for being on the show. I really enjoyed our time together.